Have you ever thought about what truly brings joy and meaning as the years pass by? Is it maintaining strong family bonds, keeping an active schedule, or just navigating each day with grace? What if the real key to happiness in our golden years is something entirely different, something we tend to disregard until we've lost a chance to embrace it? In today's story, we will explore the inspiring journey of Margaret, a woman who embraced aging in a way that transformed her life. She learned that real happiness isn't found in living for others or in the expectations of society. It's about creating a life of meaning, joy, and freedom. By watching this story, you'll discover the key to thriving in your later years, how to balance independence with relationships, and why self-care and self-love are more important than you might think. You'll also see how small choices can lead to a life filled with happiness and peace. If you enjoy this kind of storytelling, don't forget to like and share this video to help spread these valuable lessons. And if this topic interests you, please comment one below so I know you're here with me. Now let's begin. Margaret once said, "I finally realized that to live a happy old age, I don't need my children or a big bank account. I only need three things." This profound realization didn't come easily. It took a lifetime of sacrifice, heartbreak, and rediscovery. But when she finally understood it, everything changed. For years, Margaret lived her life for everyone but herself. She gave all her love and energy to her children, her husband, and those around her, believing that was what a good wife and mother should do. But in the process, she lost sight of something essential, herself. She spent her best years pouring her heart into her family, never asking for anything in return. She thought that if she gave enough, she would be loved, appreciated, and cared for in her later years. But life has a way of teaching us lessons in unexpected ways. After years of devotion, she found herself alone, watching as her children built lives of their own. They loved her, but they were busy. The house that was once filled with laughter and activity now felt quiet, too quiet. She began to wonder, had she done the right thing? Had she sacrificed too much? And then, one day, she had a moment of clarity. She realized that happiness doesn't come from being needed. It comes from building a life you love, even when no one else is around. Margaret's journey wasn't just about growing old. It was about growing wise. And in that wisdom, she discovered three treasures that would shape the rest of her life. These three things, she believed, were the true keys to a happy old age. But before we reveal them, let's go back to where her story truly begins. Margaret's life was never easy. She had always been a giver, the kind of woman who put everyone else before herself. She married young, full of dreams of a happy home. But reality was different. Her husband, though a hard-working man, was often distant, more focused on providing than on emotional connection. And so, Margaret became the glue that held everything together. She raised her children with love and patience, making sure they had everything they needed. Every morning, she would wake up early, preparing breakfast, packing lunches, and ensuring the house was in order before anyone even opened their eyes. She never complained. She believed this was her duty, the role she was meant to play. But life has a way of testing even the strongest hearts. One day, tragedy struck. Her husband, the man she had stood beside for decades, passed away suddenly. In an instant, her world changed. She was left alone to take care of everything. Her home, her children, the bills, the responsibilities. At first, she thought, they still need me. My children will always be close. I am not alone. But time has a way of reshaping things. Her children grew up. They got married. They moved to different cities. Calls became less frequent. Visits turned into occasional gatherings on holidays. They loved her, but they had their own lives to live. For years, Margaret told herself it was fine. She kept busy, tidying up an already clean house, preparing meals for one, sitting by the window, waiting for a phone call that sometimes never came. Then, one evening, as she sat alone at the dinner table, staring at an untouched plate of food, a realization hit her with full force. She had spent her entire life building a home for others, but had never built a life for herself. Her happiness had always depended on her children, her husband, the people around her. But what about her own dreams? Her own needs? That night, she made a decision. She would not spend the rest of her life waiting for someone to make her happy. If she wanted joy, she would create it herself. And so, Margaret set out on a journey, not to a new place, but to a new way of thinking, a way of living that put herself first for the first time in her life. Little did she know that this decision would lead her to 3 simple treasures, 3 things that would bring her more peace and happiness than she had ever known. But what were they? Margaret's decision to put herself first wasn't easy at first. After spending decades living for others, she didn't know where to start. She asked herself, what do I even like? What makes me happy? For years, her life had revolved around her children's needs, her husband's expectations, and society's definition of a good mother and good wife. Now, for the first time, she had the chance to define her own happiness. And so, she started with something simple. She went for a walk. At first, it was just a short stroll around the neighborhood. Her legs felt heavy. Her back ached from years of hard work. But she kept going. Each morning, she stepped outside, letting the fresh air fill her lungs, feeling the ground beneath her feet. She didn't realize it then, but this small act would lead to her first treasure. 1. Health, the foundation of a peaceful life. Margaret had spent most of her life taking care of others, but she had never really taken care of herself. She had ignored her aches and pains, thinking they were just part of aging. But as she continued her daily walks, something unexpected happened. Her body started to feel lighter, stronger. One day, as she rested on a park bench, an elderly woman sitting beside her struck up a conversation. "You come here often?" the woman asked with a smile. Margaret nodded. The woman leaned in, lowering her voice like she was about to share a secret. "You know, staying active is the best thing you can do for yourself. If we wait for others to take care of us, we'll only grow weaker. But if we take care of ourselves, we'll always be free." That thought stayed with Margaret. She had spent her whole life assuming that when she got older, her children would look after her. But now, she understood something crucial. Her health was her responsibility. She decided to do more. She joined a gentle yoga class for seniors. She learned simple stretches to ease her back pain. She even started cooking nutritious meals for herself, instead of just snacking on whatever was easy. And slowly, she realized that taking care of her body wasn't just about living longer. It was about living better. She had found her first treasure. But that was only the beginning. 2. Relationships, the power of true companionship. For years, Margaret believed that her happiness was tied to her children. If they were around, she felt needed. If they were busy, she felt forgotten. But she was about to learn something life-changing. One afternoon, while on her usual walk, she noticed a small sign at the community center. Volunteers needed for a gardening project. She hesitated. She had never gardened before. But something inside her said, "Try." That weekend, she showed up, feeling a little nervous. She was assigned the simple task of pulling weeds. As she knelt in the dirt, struggling to get a stubborn root out, a little boy nearby was having the same problem. He looked up at her. "Grandma, am I doing this right?" he asked shyly. Margaret smiled. "Here, let me show you." At that moment, something shifted. For the first time in years, she felt a real connection. Not because someone needed her, but because she was sharing something meaningful. Week after week, she kept coming back. The other volunteers, both young and old, became her friends. They shared stories, laughter, and a sense of belonging. And that's when she realized her second treasure. True relationships aren't just about family. They're about finding people who bring joy and meaning into your life. She still loved her children deeply, but she no longer waited for their calls to feel valued. She had built a new circle of people who made her feel alive. Margaret had found her second treasure, but there was still one more left to discover. Margaret had discovered 2 powerful truths. Taking care of her health gave her freedom, and building new relationships gave her joy. But there was still one more piece to the puzzle, something that would make her feel truly alive. It all started with a simple question from her daughter. One afternoon, as Margaret sat on her porch sipping tea, her eldest daughter, Emily, called. "Mom," she said, laughing, "are you really taking piano lessons?" Margaret smiled. "Why not?" Emily hesitated for a moment. "I just never imagined you'd start something new at this stage in life." And that's when Margaret realized something incredible. She had spent so many years being a mother and a wife that she had forgotten she was also a person with dreams, interests, and passions. She had always loved music, but life had never given her time to explore it. Now, with no one to cook for, no school schedules to manage, and no household chores that couldn't wait, she had time for herself. And in that moment, she realized her third and final treasure. 3. Passion, the key to a meaningful life. Margaret had spent her whole life giving to others. Now, she was giving to herself, and it felt wonderful. She started exploring more things she had once ignored. Reading books she had never finished, painting landscapes just for fun, even traveling to small towns she had always been curious about. She wasn't trying to pass time. She was filling her time with things that made her feel alive. And that was the final lesson. Aging isn't about slowing down. It's about rediscovering the things that make life beautiful. A life of freedom, not regret. One day, Margaret's youngest daughter, Lily, asked her, "Mom, don't you feel lonely living alone?" Margaret smiled, a deep warmth in her eyes. "I love you, my dear," she said gently, "and I love the life I built for myself. I don't want you to worry about me. I am happy because I have made my happiness my own responsibility." At first, her daughters didn't fully understand. But over time, they saw something remarkable. Their mother wasn't just surviving. She was thriving. She was healthier than she had been in years. She had friendships that filled her heart. She had hobbies that made her look forward to each day. And most importantly, she had peace. Margaret had once believed that happiness in old age came from being surrounded by family. But now she knew the truth. Happiness comes from within. It comes from taking care of yourself, building meaningful connections, and pursuing what you love. And so, as she sat at her piano, playing a soft, beautiful tune, she knew this was a life she had always deserved. A life of independence, joy, and quiet fulfillment. The 3 treasures of a happy old age. Margaret's story teaches us something important. Your health is your freedom. Take care of your body because no one else can do it for you. Relationships bring meaning. True companionship isn't just about family. It's about finding people who bring joy into your life. Passion keeps you alive. Never stop doing what makes your heart sing, no matter how old you are. So now I ask you, which of these 3 treasures resonates with you the most? If you are still here and found this story meaningful, comment 3 below to let me know. And if Margaret's journey inspired you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories that remind us that life is always worth living, no matter our age. Thank you for being here, and I'll see you in the next video.